Darian Cross wiped the grease from his hands as he stared at the diagnostic screen in confusion. The readings made no sense. Power fluctuations were happening in Section C7, 3 levels below the main mining operation. That section had been sealed off for months after a structural collapse. No one should be down there, and certainly nothing should be drawing power. The mining station Epsilon 7 floated silently in the heart of the Veil Nebula, its massive drilling arms extracting rare minerals from the asteroid field. Darian had been the chief engineer here for 2 years, and he knew every bolt and circuit in this place. These readings were definitely not normal. The descent into darkness. Torres to engineering. The captain's voice crackled over the comm. We're getting some strange reports from the lower levels. Can you check it out? Already on it, Captain, Darian replied, grabbing his toolkit and emergency beacon. Heading down to C7 now. The elevator descended past the bustling mining floors where workers operated the heavy machinery, past the residential levels where off-duty miners slept in cramped quarters, down into the abandoned sections where only maintenance drones usually ventured. The air grew colder as Darian stepped out into the darkened corridor. His flashlight beam cut through the shadows, revealing twisted metal and debris from the old collapse. But as he moved deeper into the section, following his scanner toward the power source, something else caught his attention. A voice in the silence, soft humming echoed through the empty halls. A melody unlike anything he'd heard before, with notes that seemed to vibrate in harmony with the station's hull. Darian froze, listening carefully. The sound was definitely coming from deeper in the section, near where his scanner was detecting the power drain. Hello? He called out, his voice echoing off the metal walls. Is someone down here? This area is restricted. The humming stopped. Abruptly. Then a voice answered him, clear and musical despite the distance. Please don't be afraid. I mean no harm to you or your people. The voice was definitely female, with an accent he couldn't place. But there was something else about it, something that made his heart rate quicken. It carried undertones that seemed to resonate directly in his mind. First Contact Darian followed the voice deeper into the abandoned section until he reached what had once been a storage bay. Inside, soft blue light pulsed rhythmically, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The source of the light sat in the center of the room, and Darian's breath caught in his throat. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin held a subtle silver sheen that seemed to shift like liquid mercury in the blue light. Her hair was long and dark, but individual strands caught the light like fiber optic cables. When she turned toward him, her eyes were the deep purple of space itself, filled with swirling galaxies of light. You're hurt, Darian said, noticing the makeshift bandages around her arm and the way she favored her left side. My ship was damaged in the nebula storms, she replied, slowly standing. Despite her injuries, she moved with fluid grace. I've been here for several days, trying to repair what I could. The mystery deepens. Darian looked around the storage bay and saw what he'd missed at first. In the corner sat what could only be described as a craft, though it looked more grown than built. Its surface was smooth and organic-looking, with the same silver sheen as her skin. Cables and conduits extended from it into the station's power grid. That's where the power drain is coming from, he said, understanding dawning. You've been feeding off our systems. Only what I needed to survive, she said quickly. I tried to take as little as possible. I know my presence here puts you at risk. There was something in her tone that made Darian believe her completely. More than that, he felt a strange urge to help her, to protect her. It was as if her voice carried some kind of emotional resonance that spoke directly to his deepest instincts. Dangerous compassion. What's your name? Darian asked, setting down his toolkit and moving closer. I am Zetha Norum of the Nethys people, she replied. And you are the engineer Darian Cross. I've been listening to your maintenance reports over the communication channels. The fact that she knew his name should have been alarming, but somehow it felt natural, as if they'd known each other far longer than these few minutes. The Nethys, Darian repeated. I've never heard of your people. We are few now, Zitha said sadly, scattered across the galaxy after our homeworld was destroyed. I was searching for others of my kind when the nebula storms damaged my ship. As she spoke, Darian noticed that the blue light seemed to pulse in rhythm with her emotions. When sadness crossed her features, the light dimmed. When she looked at him with what might have been hope, it brightened. An impossible choice. I should report this to Captain Torres, Darian said, though something inside him rebelled against the idea. You're an unauthorized alien presence on a human mining station. There are protocols. Zitha nodded slowly, her expression resigned. I understand. Your people have every right to be cautious. But Darian Cross, before you make that choice, let me show you something. She extended her hand toward him, palm up. In the center of her palm, a small flower of pure light bloomed, its petals shifting through colors that had no names. As Darian watched in amazement, the light flower grew more complex, developing intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story of worlds beyond imagination. My people are bioengineers, Zitha explained softly. We work with life itself, nurturing and shaping it in ways your science has only dreamed of. I could teach you things that would revolutionize your understanding of existence itself. The weight of discovery. Darian stared at the impossible flower of light, feeling his worldview shifting. Everything he thought he knew about technology, about life, about what was possible seemed suddenly small and limited. Here was proof that the universe held wonders beyond human comprehension. Why show me this? He whispered. Zitha's purple eyes met his, and in them he saw depths of knowledge, an experience that made him feel like a child. But there was also something else. Loneliness, hope, and perhaps the beginning of trust. Because, she said, the light flower fading as she closed her hand, I can give you more than they ever will. Your people see only resources to be extracted, profits to be made. But you, Darian Cross, you see beauty in the harmony of systems. You understand true engineering is about creating life, not just exploiting it. As her words sank in, Darian realized that his choice in the next few moments would change everything. Report her presence and watch as she became a specimen to be studied, a resource to be exploited like the minerals they mined from the asteroids. Or choose a path that led into the unknown, guided by a woman whose very existence challenged everything. He thought he knew about the universe. The blue light pulsed gently around them, waiting for his decision. The secret healer Darian made his choice in that moment, though he couldn't fully explain why. Instead of calling Captain Torres, he found himself kneeling beside Zitha, examining her injuries with the careful attention he usually reserved for damaged equipment. These wounds look infected, he said, noting the strange discoloration around the cuts on her arm. Our medical bay has supplies that could help. Zitha tilted her head, studying him with those galaxy-filled eyes. You would risk your position. To help me? Everyone deserves medical care, Darian replied, surprised by his own certainty. But we'll need to be careful. Dr. Helios Vance runs the medical bay, and he asks a lot of questions. As they made their way through the station's service corridors, Darian felt a strange awareness of Zitha beside him. It was as if he could sense her emotions, her pain from the injuries, and something else. A warm gratitude that seemed to flow directly into his mind. Healing touch. The medical bay was empty during the night shift, just as Darian had hoped. He guided Zitha to one of the examination tables and began gathering antiseptic and bandages from the supply cabinets. Your medicine is crude but effective, Zitha observed, as Darian began cleaning her wounds. My people heal differently. How do you mean? Darian asked, carefully applying the antiseptic. Instead of answering with words, Zitha placed her hand over a smaller cut on her other arm. The same blue light that had filled the storage bay began to glow beneath her palm. When she lifted her hand moments later, the wound had completely disappeared, leaving only smooth, unmarked skin. Darian nearly dropped the bandages he was holding. That's impossible. Tissue regeneration at that speed would require massive amounts of energy. Not energy, Zitha corrected gently, understanding. My people learned long ago that the body knows how to heal itself. We simply help it remember. Dangerous questions. What are you doing here, Cross? The sharp voice made both Darian and Zitha freeze. Security Chief Briggs stood in the doorway, his hand resting on his sidearm. His eyes took in the scene, the alien woman, the medical supplies scattered across the table. Medical emergency, Chief, Darian said, trying to keep his voice steady. Found her injured in the lower levels. Briggs stepped closer, his suspicious gaze never leaving Zitha. Injured how? And what species is she? I don't recognize the physiological markers. Zitha spoke before Darian could answer. I am a deep space trader. My ship was damaged by nebula storms, and I sought refuge here until repairs could be made. Her voice carried that same musical quality Darian had noticed before, but now he realized it was doing something more. Chief Briggs's aggressive posture relaxed slightly, his hand moving away from his weapon. Traitor, huh? Briggs said, though. His tone was less hostile than before. What kind of goods do you carry? The power of persuasion, biological samples, and genetic templates, Zitha replied smoothly. My people specialize in agricultural improvements and medical applications. Perhaps we could discuss trade arrangements with your captain. Darian watched in amazement as Briggs nodded slowly. The security chief was known for his paranoia and strict adherence to protocol. Yet here he was accepting Zitha's explanation without demanding proper documentation or following standard quarantine procedures. I'll need to report this to Torres, Briggs said, but his tone suggested it was a formality rather than an urgent concern. Make sure she gets proper medical attention, Cross. After Briggs left, Darian stared at Zitha with new understanding. You did something to him, some kind of mental influence. I helped him feel calm and receptive, Zitha admitted. My people can project emotional states to some degree. It's necessary for our healing work to help patients relax and trust. Growing bond over the next several days, Darian found reasons to visit the guest quarters where Captain Torres had temporarily housed Zitha. Officially, he was conducting standard technical assessments of the station systems. Unofficially, he was drawn to spend time with the most fascinating person he'd ever met. Zitha told him stories of her travels through the galaxy, describing worlds where cities grew like coral reefs and creatures of pure energy danced through crystal forests. In return, Darian shared his passion for engineering, explaining how he saw beauty in the elegant solutions that kept their little outpost functioning in the hostile environment of space. Your work is not so different from ours, Zitha observed. One evening, as they sat in the observation lounge, watching the nebula's colorful gases swirl past the viewports. You nurture systems, encourage them to work in harmony. You create life from metal and circuits. Darian felt that strange mental resonance again, as if her words were touching thoughts he'd never quite formed himself. I never thought of it that way. Telepathic healing. Their growing connection was interrupted when word came of an accident in the mining operation. A structural beam had collapsed, trapping 2 workers with severe injuries. Dr. Vance worked frantically in the medical bay, but one of the injured miners was fading fast from internal bleeding. I can help, Zitha said quietly, appearing beside Darian as they watched the medical team struggle to save the man's life. Vance won't allow an unauthorized person to interfere with medical procedures, Darian warned. Then we don't tell him. Before Darian could protest, Zetha had slipped into the medical bay. She approached the dying miner's bed and placed her hands gently on his chest. The familiar blue light began to glow beneath her palms, but this time it was different, stronger, more focused. The monitors showing the man's vital signs began to change. His breathing steadied. His heart rate normalized. Dr. Vance stared at the readings in disbelief. "I don't understand," the doctor muttered. "These injuries should be fatal, but look at these scans. The internal bleeding has stopped completely." Dangerous discoveries. Dr. Vance's confusion turned to suspicion when he noticed Zetha standing near the patient's bed. "Who authorized you to be in here?" "I was simply observing your medical techniques," Zetha replied, her voice carrying that calming influence. "Your doctor's skill is remarkable." But Vance was too experienced to be completely swayed. His eyes narrowed as he looked between Zetha and the miraculous recovery of his patient. "I've been a doctor for 20 years. I know impossible when I see it." Later, as Darian escorted Zetha back to her quarters, she seemed troubled. "Your doctor is very intelligent and very suspicious." "Vance has always been curious about anything medical," Darian said. "He'll probably want to run tests, ask questions." Zetha stopped walking and turned to face him. "Darian, there's something you need to understand about my people. We're not just healers. We're hunted." The truth revealed in the privacy of her quarters, Zetha finally told Darian the complete truth. The Nethys hadn't been scattered by a natural disaster. They'd been systematically eliminated by other species who feared their bioengineering abilities. "We could extend life, cure diseases that others considered incurable, even enhance physical and mental capabilities," she explained. "Some saw us as saviors. Others saw us as a threat to the natural order." "And which were you?" Darian asked. "Both," she admitted. "Our abilities came with great responsibility, and not all of my people used them wisely. Some tried to play God, to remake entire species according to their vision. The backlash was swift and merciless." As Zetha spoke, Darian felt her emotions flowing through that strange connection between them. Her grief for her lost people, her fear of being discovered, and underneath it all, a growing affection for him that took his breath away. Point of no return. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because you've shown me kindness when you had every reason to be afraid," Zetha replied. "And because our connection is growing stronger. Soon you'll be able to feel my thoughts, as clearly as I can sense yours." She was right. Even now, Darian could perceive the edges of her consciousness, her hopes and fears brushing against his mind like whispers in the dark. "Is that normal?" he asked. "This mental link?" "For my people, yes, but you're human. This should be impossible." Zetha's expression grew troubled. "Unless you have some latent telepathic ability that my presence is awakening." Before Darian could respond, an alarm began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed, red as Captain Torres's voice echoed over the communication system. "All senior staff to the command center immediately. We have incoming ships." Through their growing mental bond, Darian felt Zetha's terror spike. "They've found me," she whispered. The hunters had come to Epsilon 7. False alarm. The command center buzzed with tense activity as Captain Torres studied the tactical displays. 3 ships approached through the nebula, but their configuration wasn't what anyone expected. "They're research vessels," reported Lieutenant Commander Wells from the sensor station. "Academic registration from the University of New Geneva, led by Professor Meridian Kane." Darian felt Zetha's relief wash through their mental connection like cool water. Not hunters after all, but something potentially just as dangerous. Scientists who might want to study her. "They're requesting permission to dock," Wells continued. Says they're investigating reports of unusual energy signatures in this sector. Captain Torres glanced at Darien. Any idea what kind of energy signatures they might be picking up? Darien kept his expression neutral. Nothing in my reports, Captain. Could be residual effects from the nebula storms. The archaeological team, Professor Meridian Kane, was a tall woman with silver hair and intense green eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. She swept into the station's main conference room, followed by a team of researchers carrying sophisticated scanning equipment. Captain Torres, she said briskly, thank you for accommodating our research team. We've detected some fascinating readings from this region that could indicate the presence of ancient technology. What kind of ancient technology? Torres asked. Nethys artifacts, Kane replied, causing Darien's blood to run cold. We've been tracking energy patterns that match ruins found in 3 other systems. The Nethys were master bioengineers before their civilization collapsed. Through their link, Darien felt Zitha's carefully controlled fear. The professor wasn't just any researcher. She was a specialist in Nethys technology, which made her extremely dangerous. Hidden ruins, the readings are strongest in the asteroid field, approximately 200 kilometers from your station. Professor Kane continued, displaying a holographic star chart. We'd like permission to investigate. That's a dangerous area, Captain Torres warned. Unstable gravitational fields and radiation pockets. We lost a survey drone there last month. We're equipped for hazardous conditions, Kane insisted. Captain, if there are Nethys ruins out there, they could contain medical technology that would revolutionize human health care. The scientific value is immeasurable. Darien watched the professor's eyes light up with the fervor of someone who had dedicated her life to unlocking ancient secrets. But through his bond with Zitha, he sensed something else. These weren't just ruins Kane was looking for. A desperate plan that night, Zitha came to Darien's quarters, her expression grave. She knows I'm here, she said without preamble. Professor Kane isn't just looking for ruins. She's tracking active Nethys biosignatures. How can you be sure? Because I can sense her thoughts at the edge of my consciousness. She's been modified with Nethys neural implants, probably taken from artifacts found at other sites. The idea made Darien feel sick. She's using pieces of your people's technology to hunt for more of you? It gets worse, Zitha continued. There really are ruins in that asteroid field. A hidden sanctuary where some of my people once lived. If Kane finds it, she'll have access to biotechnology beyond anything humans have imagined. Journey into the past. Then we have to get there first, Darien said, the words surprising him with their certainty. We? Zitha stared at him. Darien, if you help me, there's no going back. Your people will consider you a traitor. Maybe they're wrong about what treason really means. The next morning, Darien filed a routine maintenance report claiming he needed to investigate power fluctuations in the outer sensor array. It was a thin excuse, but it gave him authorization to take a small utility shuttle into the asteroid field. Zitha hid in the cargo compartment as they launched, emerging only when they were well away from the station. As they approached the coordinates she provided, the asteroids began to change. What had appeared to be random chunks of rock revealed subtle patterns, surfaces that were too smooth, angles that were too precise. The living city there. Zitha pointed to an asteroid that looked like all the others. But as their shuttle drew closer, sections of its surface began to shift and flow like liquid metal. Hidden doors opened to reveal a docking bay that glowed with soft bioluminescent light. It's beautiful, Darien breathed as they entered the ancient structure. The Nethys hadn't built their city from metal and stone. They had grown it, nurturing it like a vast organism that lived and breathed with its own rhythm. Walls pulsed gently with circulatory systems that distributed nutrients and energy, Chambers expanded and contracted as if breathing. Everything was alive, responding to their presence with welcoming warmth. My people believed that technology should be part of the natural order, not separate from it, Zitha explained as she led him through corridors that adjusted their lighting to optimal levels. We didn't manufacture devices. We cultivated them. Wonders beyond imagination. In the sanctuary's central chamber, Zitha showed Darian marvels that challenged everything he thought he knew about science. Trees that grew complex instruments instead of fruit. Pools of liquid that could heal any injury or disease. Crystalline structures that stored not just data, but actual memories and experiences. This is a medical cultivation chamber. Zitha sighed, approaching what looked like a cocoon made of living silver. It can cure any illness, repair any damage, even extend life far beyond normal limits. How long do your people normally live? Darian asked. We measure age differently. This body is approximately equivalent to your 30 years, but I have memories and experiences spanning several centuries. The implications staggered him. The Nethys hadn't just mastered biotechnology. They had transcended the normal limitations of biological existence. The price of knowledge. Why show me all this? Darian asked as they explored deeper into the sanctuary. Because someone needs to understand what we were, what we could have given to the galaxy if fear hadn't destroyed. U.S., Zitha replied. And because you're changing, Darian. Our bond is transforming you in ways that will become irreversible soon. She was right. Darian could feel it happening. His senses were becoming more acute, his mind processing information faster. The mechanical systems he'd worked with his entire career now seemed crude and limited compared to the elegant biological solutions surrounding them. What am I becoming? He asked. Something new. Neither fully human nor Nethys, but a bridge between both. Zitha's voice carried a note of wonder mixed with concern. It's never happened before. The neural compatibility shouldn't exist. Dangerous. Pursuit their exploration was interrupted by the proximity alarms on Darian's shuttle. Through the bioorganic windows of the sanctuary, they could see Professor Kane's research vessel approaching the hidden entrance. She's found us, Zitha sighed grimly. The implants must be resonating with the sanctuary's biosignature. Can we hide deeper in the structure? No. If she enters, she'd be able to track us anywhere inside. The sanctuary will try to be hospitable to her because she carries Nethy's genetic markers. Through the viewports, they watched as Kane's ship began deploying scanning drones around the asteroid. The professor's voice crackled over the communication channels. This is remarkable. The entire asteroid appears to be a single living organism. Darian, I know you're in there. Your shuttles. Transponder is broadcasting. The Guardian's warning. As Kane's team prepared to enter the sanctuary, something unexpected happened. The walls around Darian and Zitha began to pulse with urgent light patterns. Images formed in the bioluminescent displays, showing scenes of destruction and death. The sanctuary is warning us, Zitha interpreted. It's showing us what happened to other sites when they were discovered by people like Kane. The images were horrific. Nethy's ruins stripped of their living components, turned into lifeless museums. Worse, they showed laboratories where researchers had tried to replicate Nethy's biotechnology without understanding its true nature, creating abominations that had to be destroyed. She doesn't understand what she's dealing with, Darian realized. She thinks this is just advanced technology she can study and reverse engineer. The Nethy's arts require a symbiotic relationship between user and tool, Zitha explained. Without that bond, the technology becomes unstable, dangerous. Kane's implants give her partial access, but not true understanding. The offer, Professor Kane. Zitha's voice echoed through the sanctuary's communication system as she addressed the research team. I know you can hear me. You're carrying pieces of my people's neural tissue. I can feel their pain. Kane's response was immediate. Your Nethes, alive. Do you have any idea how significant this is? You could help us understand your people's medical breakthroughs. Think of the lives we could save. I've seen your research methods, Professor. You dissect and analyze, never considering that our biotechnology is alive, that it suffers when separated from its symbiotic partners. All scientific advancement requires sacrifice, Kane replied coldly. Your people's knowledge is too valuable to remain hidden. At choice, Zephyr turned to Darien, her expression filled with desperate determination. There's something I haven't told you. The neural bond we're developing isn't just emotional or telepathic. It's genetic. I can offer you full integration with Nethes biotechnology, but the process would change you so fundamentally that you could never return to human society. What do you mean? I mean, I can give you abilities beyond anything your species has. Imagined. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, expanded consciousness, direct interface with living technology. But you would become something that humans would fear and want to destroy. Through the viewports, they could see Kane's team preparing to breach the sanctuary's outer chambers. In minutes, they would be inside, ready to strip away centuries of carefully cultivated biotechnology. Choose quickly, Darien, Zephyr whispered. Help me protect what remains of my people's legacy, or watch it be dissected in the name of human scientific progress. The sanctuary's walls pulsed around them, waiting for his answer.